Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're all about helping you become an expert fast.
That's right, in record time.
Today, we're diving into the world of spoken English.
Yeah.
We've been poring over Sophia's Let's Talk English podcast. And
It's a great podcast.
yeah, we're going to break down her top tips so you can speak English.
With more confidence, right?
Yeah, with more confidence and clarity. It's like having a cheat sheet
Totally.
to like fluent English.
Yeah, it is. Sophia covers so much from pronunciation to
And vocabulary.
vocabulary and even the finer points like intonation, the stuff that makes you sound,
Oh yeah, like a natural.
yeah, totally. Like you've been speaking it your whole life.
Okay, so first things first, Sophia really stresses that you got to ditch the fear. You know, the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, absolutely. And actually says mistakes are like essential.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, she kind of flips the script on how we view mistakes. Instead of seeing them as failures, she really encourages us to embrace them like they're stepping stones.
Nice.
Each mistake is a chance to fine-tune your skills and get closer to fluency.
It's like that saying you got to break a few eggs
Exactly.
to make an omelet.
You got it. But how do we actually get over that fear?
Yeah. Putting yourself out there can be, really intimidating.
It can be, yeah. But Sophia has some great advice on that. She's a big believer in surrounding yourself with English, as much as possible.
Oh, okay.
So think music, movies, podcasts, even I don't know, those cheesy English language reality shows, anything.
So basically just immerse yourself in the language.
Exactly.
Make it part of your daily life.
Yes. The more you hear English being spoken in different contexts, the more your brain starts to pick up on everything. The rhythms, the intonation, the natural flow.
It's like training your ears without even realizing it. I remember when I was learning Spanish, I used to watch telenovelas with subtitles.
Oh, nice.
It was addictive, and my listening, comprehension just went through the roof.
I bet. That's a perfect example. And while passive listening is great, Sophia also stresses the importance of active practice.
Active practice, okay.
Yeah, so find a language partner, join a conversation group, or even just chat with yourself out loud.
Wait, talk to yourself. Isn't that a bit, crazy?
Not at all. Think of it as a mental rehearsal. Describe what you're doing, narrate your day, practice those tricky sounds. It might feel silly at first, but it gets you comfortable with forming sentences and actually speaking.
So it's like building those speech muscles.
Yeah.
But without the pressure of an audience. Okay, that makes sense. But what about pronunciation? I mean, that's something a lot of people, they really struggle.
Well, for sure. It's a big one. But Sophia breaks pronunciation down into manageable steps. She starts with the absolute basics, mastering individual vowel and consonant sounds.
Right. So if you can't get the individual sounds right,
The whole thing kind of falls apart.
the whole thing crumbles, yeah. But it's not just about those individual sounds, is it?
No, not at all.
I mean, Sophia talks a lot about word stress.
Word stress, absolutely. Word stress is all about emphasizing certain syllables within a word.
I see.
Like take the word photograph versus photographer. The stress changes.
It totally changes the meaning.
The meaning completely.
Yeah. And it can be so subtle. It's not always obvious which syllable to stress, especially if you're not a native speaker.
Right. But Sophia says that mastering word stress is key for natural rhythm and flow.
Yeah.
It's what makes your speech sound smooth and easy to understand.
So it's like learning to dance. You need to get the rhythm right
Exactly.
before you can really move with grace.
Yes. She even recommends listening for stress patterns when you're watching movies or listening to podcasts. Speaking of challenges, though, Sophia doesn't shy away from those tricky sounds, the ones that trip people up. I know the faux sound is notoriously difficult.
Oh, yeah, that one. It's a sound that doesn't exist in a lot of languages.
Right, so it takes some serious practice to get it right.
It does.
Sophia provides some excellent tips on tongue placement and airflow. She also talks about differentiating between those short and long vowel sounds like ship versus sheep.
Oh, yeah, that's a classic. Another common stumbling block.
It is. But again, she emphasizes that practice is key. It's not about being perfect overnight. It's about consistent effort.
Exactly. Consistent effort. So she suggests targeted exercises and repetition to train your mouth to make those sounds accurately.
It's like learning a musical instrument. You have to practice those scales over and over again until they become second nature.
Okay, so we've covered confidence, we've tackled pronunciation. What's next on our English-speaking cheat sheet?
Well, you can't have a conversation without words, right?
True.
So let's talk vocabulary. Sophia has this great analogy. She compares vocabulary to a toolbox.
Ooh, I like that. So the more words you have, the more tools you have at your disposal.
Exactly. A rich vocabulary allows you to articulate your thoughts and ideas with precision and nuance. You're not just limited to basic hammers and screwdrivers. You've got the whole range of tools to build something complex and beautiful.
I love that. So how do we fill up that toolbox? What are Sophia's go-to strategies for expanding vocabulary?
Well, she's all about making it a daily habit. Reading is a big one, of course.
Of course.
But she stresses the importance of active reading, not just passively absorbing words, but actively engaging with them. When you come across a word you don't know, don't just skim over it. Look it up, understand its meaning, and try using it in a sentence.
Otherwise, it just goes in one ear and out the other.
Exactly. No, I personally love using flashcards. I know it's old school, but
Oh, yeah, flashcards are great.
they work. Flashcards are great because they leverage the power of spaced repetition, which is a proven method for committing information to long-term memory. You basically review words at increasing intervals, which helps them stick.
And Sophia also talks about learning words in context, right? Not just memorizing definitions.
Absolutely. It's about understanding how words are used in sentences and phrases. It's like seeing a word in its natural habitat rather than just in a sterile dictionary definition.
So reading is key for this, right? Seeing how words are actually used in books, articles, even social media posts.
100%. And don't underestimate the power of online resources. There are tons of vocabulary building apps and websites that can make learning fun and engaging.
Yeah, some of them are like games, which is awesome.
Totally. But at the end of the day, it's all about active use, right? You can memorize all the definitions in the world, but if you don't actually use the words.
They just sit there gathering dust.
Exactly. So Sophia's motto is, the more you use a word, the more it sticks. So try weaving new words into your conversations, your writing, even your inner monologue. Make them a part of your daily life.
Okay, so we've talked about building confidence, nailing pronunciation, and expanding our vocabulary. But there's another crucial piece of the speaking puzzle that we haven't really touched on yet.
You're talking about listening, right?
Yes. Listening. It's the foundation of any good conversation.
All right.
I mean, you can't speak effectively if you can't understand what others are saying.
Exactly. Sophia is a huge advocate for active listening. It's not just about hearing the words, it's about truly engaging with what the other person is saying.
Right, so paying attention to their words, but also to their tone of voice.
Yes, their body language, all the nuances of their communication.
It's like reading between the lines, right? Sometimes what's not said is just as important as what is said.
Precisely. And active listening helps you pick up on those subtle cues, those unspoken messages that add depth and richness to a conversation.
But let's be honest, active listening can be tough, especially in a world full of distractions. Our phones are buzzing, our minds are racing. How do we actually stay focused?
Well, Sophia recommends practicing mindfulness techniques. So, take a few deep breaths before a conversation, consciously clear your mind of distractions, and just make a deliberate effort to focus on the speaker.
It's like hitting the reset button on your brain. I find that just taking a few seconds to center myself before a conversation makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And of course, practice makes perfect. The more you engage in active listening, the easier it becomes.
Okay, so what are some practical ways we can hone our listening skills? Besides meditating before every chat, I mean.
Well, podcasts are a fantastic tool.
Oh, come on. You're just saying that because we're on one right now.
Okay, maybe a little. But seriously, choose podcasts on topics that genuinely interest you and make a conscious effort to listen attentively. Try summarizing the main points afterward to check your comprehension.
I love that idea. It's like turning your commute into a listening workout. What about movies and TV shows? Are those helpful for listening practice?
Absolutely, especially with subtitles. Start with subtitles in your native language, then gradually switch to English subtitles as you become more comfortable.
That's a great tip. Subtitles provide that visual reinforcement so you can connect the spoken words with the written form. And it's a great way to pick up new vocabulary, too.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to challenge yourself with different accents and dialects. Remember, English is a global language, and the more exposure you have to different ways of speaking, the more adaptable your listening skills will become.
It's like expanding your ears vocabulary, right? I used to think British accents were so difficult to understand, but after watching a few seasons of Doctor Who, I'm practically fluent.
That's a perfect example. And don't limit yourself to just one type of content. Listen to news broadcasts, interviews, audiobooks, even stand-up comedy. The more diverse your listening diet, the more well-rounded your comprehension skills will be.
So it's about variety, challenge, and consistency, just like with any skill you're trying to develop.
Exactly. And here's another important tip from Sophia. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you don't understand something, it's perfectly okay to politely ask the speaker to repeat or rephrase.
It's so much better to ask than to pretend you understand and then miss out on crucial information.
Yeah.
It shows that you're engaged and genuinely interested in what the other person has to say.
Absolutely. Asking for clarification is a sign of strength, not weakness. It demonstrates active listening and a willingness to learn.
Okay, so we've covered listening, which is all about absorbing information. But now let's shift gears and talk about how we process and express that information.
You're talking about reading and writing, right? Two skills that are very closely intertwined with speaking.
Exactly. Sophia emphasizes that reading is not only enjoyable, but also an incredibly powerful tool for language learning.
It is. Reading exposes you to a wealth of vocabulary, grammar structures, and different writing styles, all of which contribute to your overall language proficiency. It's like immersing yourself in a sea of language, absorbing its rhythms and complexities.
It's a bit like osmosis, right? The more you read, the more the language seeps into your brain. But where do we start? I mean, the world of reading is vast. How do we choose the right materials?
Sophia recommends starting with materials that are appropriate for your current skill level. Don't feel pressured to jump into complex novels right away. Choose books, articles, or online resources that are engaging and accessible. The key is to build confidence and enjoyment as you progress.
So start with something you actually want to read, something that sparks your interest.
Exactly. If you're forcing yourself to read something you find boring, you're less likely to stick with it. Choose topics that you're passionate about, whether it's science fiction, history, or even celebrity gossip.
And just like with listening, active reading is crucial, right? Don't just passively scan the words. Engage with the text.
Absolutely. Ask yourself questions as you read. What are the main ideas? Who are the key characters? What's the overall message? Try to summarize what you've read in your own words. It's a great way to make sure you're really understanding the material.
Right. It forces you to process the information actively and make those connections. And don't just gloss over those unfamiliar words. Look them up, understand their meaning and context, and try using them in your own sentences. It's all about building that vocabulary toolbox we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Every new word you learn expands your expressive power and deepens your understanding of the language.
And Sophia's a big fan of online resources, right? There are tons of websites and apps designed to help you improve your reading comprehension.
Absolutely. These resources offer targeted exercises, quizzes, and assessments that allow you to gauge your progress and identify areas for improvement. And many of them are gamified, which can make learning more fun and engaging.
And for those who thrive in a social learning environment, Sophia suggests joining a book club or discussion group.
It's a great way to stay motivated, share insights with others, and engage in meaningful conversations about what you're reading.
And of course, the most important thing is to make reading a regular habit. Even if it's just for a few minutes each day, the consistency will pay off in the long run. The more you read, the more comfortable and fluent you'll become. It's like exercise for your brain.
Speaking of exercise, I think it's time to tackle the final and often most daunting skill on our list, writing.
Ugh. Yes, writing. The skill that often sends shivers down the spines of language learners.
I know, right? But Sophia assures us that writing doesn't have to be a terrifying ordeal. She encourages us to start small, building a solid foundation before tackling more complex tasks.
The baby steps, basically.
Exactly. She suggests starting with simple exercises like diary entries, short paragraphs on topics that interest you, even just jotting down your thoughts and observations throughout the day. It's about getting into the habit of expressing yourself in written English without putting too much pressure on yourself.
Makes sense. So focusing on those fundamentals.
Yes, mastering sentence structure, understanding basic grammar rules, and building a strong vocabulary are essential for clear and effective writing.
So it's back to basics, right? Making sure we have a strong foundation before we start building skyscrapers.
Precisely. And she offers a lot of practical tips for improving grammar and expanding vocabulary. using a thesaurus to explore synonyms, experimenting with different ways of expressing the same idea, even just pay attention to how skilled writers use language in the books and articles you read. It's about absorbing those good writing habits and then applying them to your own work.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about organization? I mean, sometimes I have all these ideas swirling around in my head, but I don't know how to put them down on paper in a coherent way.
I hear you. Organization is key, and Sophia also stresses the importance of organizing your ideas effectively before you start writing. Take some time to create an outline or mind map. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, just a way to structure your thoughts logically and ensure that your writing flows smoothly from one point to the next.
It's like creating a roadmap for your writing, right? You know where you're starting, where you're going, and how you're going to get there.
Exactly. And once you've finished writing, don't forget to edit and proofread. It's amazing how many errors we can catch when we take the time to review our work carefully.
It's so easy to miss those little mistakes when you're in the flow of writing. Fresh eyes are essential.
Absolutely. And Sophia encourages seeking feedback from others. A teacher, a tutor, a language exchange partner, even a friend who's a skilled writer.
Yeah, constructive criticism can be so valuable. It helps you see your writing from a different perspective and identify areas that might need clarification or refinement.
Exactly. And here's a tip that applies to all aspects of language learning. Read extensively.
Well, we've already talked about the benefits of reading for vocabulary and comprehension, but how does it help with writing specifically?
Reading provides models of good writing. It shows you how skilled writers use language effectively to convey their ideas, how they structure their sentences, how they use vocabulary to create tone and imagery.
It's like studying the works of master painters to learn their techniques and styles.
Exactly. And just as importantly, don't be afraid to have fun with writing. Experiment with different genres and styles. Let your imagination run wild.
Right. Writing is a creative outlet,
Yeah.
a way to express yourself and share your unique voice with the world.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one inspiring others with your words.
So we've really unpacked Sophia's treasure chest of English speaking tips. We've gone from conquering that fear to really mastering those sounds, from building up our vocabulary to honing those all important listening, reading, and writing skills. Phew, it's been a journey.
It has. It really has. It's like we've given our listeners a toolkit, a toolkit for transforming their English speaking. But like with any toolkit, the real power comes from using it right.
Exactly. It's not about just passively absorbing the information. It's about taking action, putting those tips into practice, making them a part of your daily routine.
Sophia really emphasizes the importance of consistency. It's not about being perfect overnight. It's about those small, sustainable changes, the ones that add up over time.
It's like building a muscle, right? You don't go to the gym once.
Don't expect to have a six-pack.
Exactly, yeah. It takes those regular workouts. It takes consistent effort.
Precisely. And just like with physical exercise, you need to find an approach that works for you, something you enjoy and something you can stick with. Sophia talks a lot about finding your own learning style. Some people thrive in structured environments, while others prefer a more relaxed, self-directed approach.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about experimenting, trying different methods, and just seeing what really resonates with you.
Exactly. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to language learning.
And it's not just about the methods. It's also about the mindset, right? Sophia's all about cultivating that positive, growth-oriented attitude. Embracing the challenges, viewing those mistakes as opportunities for learning, and celebrating those small victories along the way.
Yes. Love that. It's like that saying, the only way to do it is to do it. Don't let fear or perfectionism hold you back. Just dive in and start speaking.
I love it. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Sophia's wisdom, we want to leave you with a challenge.
Okay, I like this.
Think about one specific area of English speaking that you want to improve. Maybe it's your pronunciation. Maybe it's your vocabulary. Maybe it's your confidence in starting conversations.
Good stuff.
And then just ask yourself, what's one small step you can take today to move you closer to that goal? Could you commit to reading for 15 minutes every day? Could you practice those tricky F sounds in front of the mirror? Could you challenge yourself to strike up a conversation with a native English speaker? Just start small.
Yeah, love it. Every step, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. And the journey itself, with all its challenges and triumphs, is what makes language learning so rewarding.
Absolutely. So we hope you've enjoyed this deep dive into the world of English speaking skills. It's been such a pleasure exploring these insights with you.
It really does.
And remember, the most important thing is to just keep practicing, keep learning, and never stop exploring the richness and the beauty of the English language.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. Until next time, happy learning.
Thank you for listening to the Speak Smart podcast. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that like button.